And we are back with a Back on the Couch edition of the Doing All Right podcast. Here's special stuff going on today. We're here on this beloved Tuesday. We're here at the headquarters. It looks a little different. I'm sitting back in my chair. We're not doing nothing else. Raining outside, but it ain't raining up in here. Brian Broaddus is to my far left over there, but we got a special guest. We're going to talk about some DBs today. DB is incredibly interesting this year. You know, there's a lot of fascinating stuff because I normally hate safeties, but this is the 1 year where safety's phenomenal, so we decided to bring in some expert help. Former Cowboys coach Dave Campo. What's up, Coach?
I'm doing good, Bosh. How you doing?
Doing great. Just trying to get some information out of you. Draft is on Thursday, and I want to be as informed as I possibly can be when I'm doing these shows. So all the knowledge you have, I'm just gonna steal it.
Well, all I know is that I've been around for a while, but I've been away from a while too. So you probably are pretty good at evaluating. I know Bryan is. So you guys have a good idea, but I've looked at them and I'm excited about this group, to be honest with you.
There's a lot of fascinating stuff going on. There's a lot of. It's interesting how the draft is kind of going to fall out. We're hearing the rumors now, and Bryan, you had something for
Coach and I we worked together for a number of years and worked on drafts, and I think that where I would like Coach to kind of talk to our viewers about is the role of the head coach when it comes into the drafting aspect. And Dave and I, like I said, work together, and I just, when you work with the Joneses, it's not like working with a traditional general manager. Traditional general managers tend to go out on the road. They go and evaluate players. It's a really a different element, but the head coach and the coaches play such a big role. And Dave, I want to ask you, your experience of being the head coach. Well, and you can even talk about your experience as being a coach and having to talk about players. We know we talked about Darren Woodson a lot, but your experience is the role of the coach and as the head coach in the draft room with the Joneses.
Well, first of all, I want to say this. It's been a while since I was there.
Yeah.
And from what I understand and listening to people in the building, it's a little different now than it used to be. Mm-hmm. When we first got there, it went in stages. When we first got there with Jimmy ran the draft room.
Right.
There's no question about it. And that's because I don't think Jerry really knew much about, he's a football fan, but he didn't know much about how things worked and how things went. So Jimmy ran the draft, and one of the things that we had a little bit of an advantage when I was there was that he really trusted our coaching staff, maybe a little bit more than the scouts, because he really didn't know the scouts that well when we first got there.
Right.
So we went out on the road and did, scouting just like the scouts did.
Sure.
So when you walk in, I was able to talk to him about Larry Brown and Darren Woodson and the guys and he trusted the fact that I knew what we were looking for the football team. Jerry didn't have much of an influence at all. Then once Jimmy left, and Jerry got a little bit more into the understanding of what goes on in the draft and how you look at players and that type of thing, mm-hmm. It changed. It went to the idea that, he listened, but he didn't actually look at players.
Right.
He did everything from listening to people.
Right.
And one of the things that has hurt him in the past, in my opinion, is that he listened to people outside the building
sure.
more than he did the people inside the building.
Right.
And so, so from that standpoint, I think we made some mistakes back in the day based on the fact that the head coach really didn't have, when I was there, I had input.
Right.
But he was listening to other people more than he was listening to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, see, that's the thing about it. Because it's a different dynamic when you work with the Dallas Cowboys. And, I've said this before, I never got the opportunity to work with Jason Garrett. But I would love to have worked with Jason Garrett because I think he had a really good understanding of personnel. His dad, Jim Garrett, was a scout, worked with his father for a long time. And I always was thinking wow, if I could have a head coach that could, would put his hand up and say, hey, the scouts are right here today. Right. Well, wait a minute, the coach is making a good point here today. And it was such a different dynamic than what I've been. And you mentioned now, I think Will McClay, has to do things to try and make the coaches happy, the scouts happy, and the Joneses happy. So when you have a coach-driven personnel department, it could be a little tough on the scouts.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And my feeling. We've had a conversation before about the fact that a coach sometimes looks at a tape.
Yeah.
He looks at 3 games. And I'm going back to when I was there.
Right.
They gave us the top 15 guys
Sure.
at position. And as a position coach, you look at 3 tapes of a guy.
Right.
And then you look at a highlight film on, as you're getting ready for the draft.
Yeah.
Whereas the scouts, especially now, where you have to look at guys from the freshman year on up because the guys are getting out early.
Right.
And so, they have a much better feeling of what's going on in the building. They're talking to the trainer, to the equipment man, to how does he react in the outside things other than on the football field. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's the most important thing because you can see kind of the athletic ability, but you don't know what the heart of the man is until you talk to people that are around him.
Right.
So, when I look at the Cowboys today, I feel like Jerry is much more in tune to listening to the guys in the building. And I think Will McClay has done a good job. When you look at the draft over the years now, obviously it hasn't come to fruition, when they get to the playoffs.
Sure.
But you go 12-4, 12-4, 12-4, that's a pretty good football team.
Sure.
That means that you did some good drafting to get yourself into that position.
You do a lot of work now, Coach, with Jacksonville. And you and I were talking about Jacksonville and how they don't let their coaches go to the combine. And the general manager is different in some of the attitudes. As you've seen a team like Jacksonville, do you feel like that's the direction that we're going to, where coaches, scouts, maybe there's a different way of they don't want to get influenced in the old methods that you and I kind of grew up with are going to no longer be as part of scouting?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the one thing they have in Jacksonville right now, and again, I haven't been able to follow the Cowboys as much as I have Jacksonville because I've been in Jacksonville for 7-8 years.
Right.
And doing the radio and television stuff there about that football team. In order to be successful as a football team, they have 3 guys that have their eyes on the bullseye, that know exactly what that football team, what they want it to look like. And when you have that combination, you have a chance to put together a group that builds the floor. And to me, to be honest with you, there was too much star gazing with this team in the past. Yeah. Build the floor. Get the best 53-man roster you can, and that's where the scouts come in. Because when you're talking about a 5th round, 6th round, 7th round guy, if the scouts have a good, clear picture of what you're looking for, I want a physical, smart, character, all these different things, that's what they look for. Yeah. I don't think when I was here, we actually had that to where everybody knew exactly what they were looking for.
I agree.
That's the problem.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And, like I say, there's different ways of doing this. I felt like, to me, what you talked about with the outside influences, we're talking about Drew Henson, quarterback at him, and we're talking to the general manager. I know this is something with Bill Parcells. We're talking to the Yankees general manager, Stick Michael. What the hell are we talking about a potential quarterback with the Dallas Cowboys, but we're talking to the general manager of the New York Yankees? I felt like I needed to step up and say, hey, Stick, by the way, you got this guy, Mariano Rivera. You might want to use him more. Yeah. Maybe he might be a good reliever.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Yeah. It makes no sense. And that's why, to me, some of the programs I was part of, I'm not saying we were perfect in Green Bay or perfect in Philadelphia, perfect in Jacksonville. I'm not saying that at all. But there's a way to do this, and there's a way to incorporate the coaches, the scouts, but like you said, all be on the same page in that way.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing to me. And again, one of the reasons that Jacksonville doesn't send their people to the combine or have the 30 guys come in, Gladstone, the general manager, doesn't want to be influenced on a half-hour meeting at the combine. He wants to, look at the big picture of everybody in the building, knowing that they've put forth exactly what this team wants to look like. Give me one of those guys.
Sure.
Give me a guy that comes in and he is exactly what I'm looking for. I want versatility in the offensive line. He doesn't have to be a top 3 pick. He has to be somebody that's versatile and solid, loves the game of football, and is tough. And that's really how you do it, in my opinion.
Has Bryan ever come to you with a player and you watch the film and go, Bryan, what the hell are you looking at? I don't see what you're seeing. What does a disagreement like that between you two guys look like?
Well, first of all, the dealing with the scouts as a coach is in a group setting more than it is an individual. What they do is Bryan would come in, for example. Let's say Bryan is. Are we talking as a general manager or as a
coach and Bryan? Yep.
Yeah, as a scout, they come in and they talk about their guy, and if you're listening, if you hear the right things, you don't have any problem with it. But you ask the questions. Is he this? Is he that? Yeah. I never had a problem with Bryan, and that was a long time ago, so I might have had a problem. I can't even remember that.
Well, I'm saying because Bryan is always, whether it's here on the radio, man, I'm sorry, we didn't draft well enough for a coach or whatnot, right? So I'm just curious, like at some point, did you go, yeah, man, I'm not feeling this guy, you know what I mean?
No, I to be honest with you, I think it was a kind of a dysfunction between the whole operation, not just one guy or one scout.
But no, to bring up Voch's point, we let you down, Dave. We really did. We didn't have enough of an influence to say, no way, we need to do this a different way.
Right. Sure.
We don't need to be listening to Jim Donnan, coach from Georgia, talk about a quarterback. Right. We don't need to be talking to Gene Stick Michael, general manager of the New York Yankees, about a player. We don't need to. The things that make me feel sad sometimes, and again, I didn't feel like I did a good enough job for you. I say that a lot. But I listen to what the Dallas Cowboys do, and I listen to Jerry Jones stand up there, and when they draft a player like DeMarco Murray, and all of a sudden it's Jerry Jones, the first thing he says is, boy, that Barry Switzer, he sure helped us on DeMarco Murray here. Well, there's 3 scouts that went to Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
There's a over-the-top guy, a national scout, that went to Oklahoma. There's a coach, a running back coach, that put his name on that player. There's a head coach that probably stepped up and said, wow, we really like this DeMarco Murray guy. We need to draft him. See, that's the problem I had. Yeah. The problem of, and just like you mentioned and so well put, that this organization at times, because you don't have a traditional general manager, the outside influence happens, and I think that's where sometimes that they miss on these picks is the fact that somebody from the outside has influenced, and the head coach at times, I think the head coach has a lot of power there, but also assistants. Listen, I said this. I was listening to coaches, defensive line coaches, talk about some of these prospects, and they were talking about Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. And they were kind of going on and on and on. And I'm thinking, they really didn't study Malachi Lawrence if they're saying some of these things. And those are the things that I think that worry me as a personnel guy when I'm sitting in a meeting room and a coach walks in, and Dave put it very well, that you watch 3 tapes, talk to a couple of buddies, maybe go to a workout, and you feel like you've got this player wired. And now all of a sudden coach walks in, and especially the Dallas Cowboys, a coach walks in and he says, well, this guy is this. He can't do this. He can't do that. And now you got 3 scouts sitting over there going,
that ain't true.
Oh, wait
we just got effed.
Yeah.
We just got effed. And I remember, I mean, I've seen this. I've seen it, and listen, Dave's right. We were there, 20 some odd years ago. But there's some things that you absolutely cannot do, as a scouting department and as coaches. You have to respect the process, and you have to be able to have your eyes open, and you have to be willing to understand the other person's point. If you don't do that, then you're not going to draft well. And then, again, Jerry likes to listen to outside sources. Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. Back in the day, it was Al Davis. Yeah. There were influences that affect you. And Will McClay's dealing with a lot of that, I think, right now, too.
Yeah, and again, I think it's probably closer now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
As far as McClay having more influence on what goes on. And to be honest with you, this is the first time, I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this, but I heard that Schottenheimer was able to pick his entire defensive staff.
Right.
Well, that's a step in the right direction.
You did not have that luxury.
I didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little different today than it was, and I think it shows in a way. I know everybody's disappointed that they haven't gone farther in the playoffs, but at the same time, I think their drafting has been pretty good. Now they've got a test this year with the defensive side of the ball for sure, because that hasn't been as good as it needs to be.
Dave, if I could ask you before we get into these safeties that we're going to talk about today, Christian Parker does appear to be carrying a big stick in that room. First year defensive coordinator. We're talking about, his background. He's been with Vic Fangio, Mike Elko down at Texas A&M. He's been influenced by various. Talk about, though, the pressure on him with, the Joneses seem to really be kind of leaning on him with A, bringing his staff in, B, now the draft or free agency a little bit, who they went out and got. You got the draft, and yet we haven't seen him call a defense yet. Talk about the pressure on him for that.
Well, there's a pressure on him, obviously, because that's the key to them being successful. I mean, they've got an offense that's good enough to go all the way, in my opinion. So now you have to get a solid defense. You don't have to have a great defense. You have to have a solid defense. And so they put the pressure on him. There's no question about it. I think what you see in a guy like that is, I know this Campanile, the defense coordinator of Jacksonville, very well. I knew he was going to be successful because I watched what he had done and the people he was around, and that's what they're looking at. They're saying Fangio, this guy, that guy. Right. I think there's something to that. If you've been around guys that their philosophy fits what you're looking at, and again, I think Schottenheimer made that decision.
Right.
I don't think Jerry made that one. I think Schottenheimer said, this is the guy that I want, and that's great. And I'm counting on him to know what he's doing. And I think Campanile did a great job in Jacksonville, and I think this Christian Parker guy is going to be good. I have to bank on the fact that if the head coach is making that decision and Jerry's giving him that opportunity, I'm all for it.
Man, Coach Brian Broaddus, I mentioned earlier how normally I'm underwhelmed by safety. I'm just such an O-line guy, D-line guy. I love front seven, and those guys thump into each other, and something happens on every single play, right? I love it. Traditionally, how I look at safety is I got to scroll around the tape. For you, it was like fast forward back in the day because it was actual tape. I got to fast forward a little bit to find my safety doing something that that's gradable for me, right? But these safeties this year are a little different. Super exciting to me watching these guys. Can y'all put this on camera? Well, cool, we're good. You see that character that's over Brian's shoulder right there, Darren Woodson? That was what, 30 years ago? 25 some odd years ago?
It was it was a long time ago. It was 92 draft, yeah.
It's so interesting that the league didn't continue to do versatile safety stuff. It was like him by himself, 30 years, and now we're back to versatile safety stuff. Normally, safeties kind of fit in the archetype, right? You're either super cover rangy guy or you're the hitter type dude or whatever in the box or whatnot. These guys, they all got primary and secondary jobs, which is interesting. I just want to run down some names to you. Me and Brian have fussed over these guys all year. We just kind of want your thoughts. Let's start off with the big dog in the class there, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, Coach. What you think about him?
Well, first of all, let me answer the question
Please.
you just mentioned. The game has changed as well. You know, Woodson changed the game. He was a guy that could play off, on, box, versatile,
Sure.
nickel, safety, whatever. The game has changed. It is so fast now and so open that you need the Darren Woodsons today, which for a while there you didn't necessarily need him, a guy like that all the time, right? So when you look at Caleb Downs, here's how I look at Caleb Downs. And again, I looked at 3 tapes.
Yeah.
So, I'm not the same as a general manager looking at the guy or a scout. But I will say this, he's a corner playing safety. He's a guy that can cover. He's got really good instincts. He's got really good speed. I think he's 4.4 or something in that neighborhood. And he's a guy that is versatile from the standpoint that he literally reminds you a little bit of Woodson, only a smaller guy. He can cover a guy man-to-man in the slot.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, you got a nickel and you got a safety that is instinctive, smart. He diagnoses very quickly. As a matter of fact, he's not a thumper, right? But he comes downhill as fast as he can because he diagnoses quickly. And so every once in a while he'll be over aggressive and he'll just go right by something. But the guy is sideline to sideline. He's got coverage ability, and he's the kind of guy. If I could have him, I'd take him all day. And again, the only weakness I see in him is that he can be overly aggressive every once in a while. That's where I see him.
How would be the number one way that you would use him, Dave? What was the one, if you have a plan, Cowboys draft him at 12, say he gets through by the grace of the draft gods.
Sure.
He gets to you at 12, you pick him. What's the first thing you're thinking about him as a player?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking is I'm a quarter defensive guy.
Sure.
Okay. And the quarters, those inside safeties have to basically play guys down the field. So I would start him there. I'd start him as a quarter safety.
Yeah.
But now everybody in the league today is not just playing the old 3-deep zone.
Sure.
They're playing man zone principles with that safety.
Right.
I'm on the slot. If he goes vertical, I'm going to cover him.
Yeah.
If he goes under, I'm going to play the flat. It's a zone man combination. So he's perfect for that strong safety spot.
Right.
Because he can do both. Now, I don't know his run support as a invert safety is what I'm calling a 3-deep guy.
So invert, you mean playing down though? Down,
right, the slot,
right.
With a free safety deep. Right. That and quarters, I think, is where he makes his money. If I was going to use him, that's what I'd do. Now that fits right in with the nickel position.
Sure.
Now, I don't know that today you could have a guy play safety and nickel like we did with Woodson. I'm not sure you can do that, but he could do that. And I think he's a guy that actually could go to corner if you got into a pinch and play outside. So to me, he's a guy that you want in the lineup, and I can see where he's in that 7, 8, 10
the range.
Yeah. That's where I see him.
There's some teams that kind of knock him on his size, like his arm length. He's not the biggest or tallest guy. Like, is that something that you saw?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. When you talk about Thieneman, the other guy we're probably going to talk about from Oregon, they're about the same height. But Thieneman is more of a go up and get the football than he is, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
So I can see where they might say his height is this and that. 200 pounds, I think that's what he is, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. Woodson was 218,
right,
and doing all that stuff. So when I say he looks like him, I'm talking about some of the things he can do, not
the movement.
Like him.
Yeah.
He can flip the hips and do all those kind of things. Again, he's not a thumper. So if you're looking, he's going to come up and make tackles, and he's a good open field tackler. To me, that's what you're looking for in this scheme.
Sure.
And that, to me, I don't see the size being that much of a factor, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You just mentioned him, Coach. Dillon Theineman from Oregon. you say you're a quarters guy. They ran a ton of quarters over there.
And they did.
Coach.
Yes.
What you think about? I see you smiling there, Coach. Why are you smiling so big when we talk about Dillon Theineman playing quarters there, Coach? Why is that? Why you smiling?
Well, to me, he's the most versatile of all of them because he could play all over the field. He with his speed, he could be a 2-deep safety. He could, he's got range. He could probably play free safety. He could probably line up and play guys man to man because he's got the same kind of athletic ability. He's not as flashy as
Downs.
Yeah. I think that's the difference.
Sure.
I don't think there's that much difference between them. Everybody's saying he's what, in the middle of the round?
Yes.
Well, I could see Caleb, from what you said.
Yes, sir.
I could see him slipping down into that 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
When I look at Thieneman, here's the difference in the two of them. He is a thumper. When he hits you, you're going down. Now, the only weakness I see on him, he is so aggressive angles-wise, he will overrun stuff sometimes, because he's so competitive. And so I think the competitiveness of him makes him a good first-round pick. And I'm talking about somewhere between 10. He's probably not in the top 10, but he's somewhere between 10 and 20, I would say, without question.
So you see them being reasonably close.
Absolutely.
So there's not, okay. That's.
But if you had both on your team, you would use them differently. You would play Downs more down and Thieneman more.
No. I'd play him wherever you want to play.
Wherever you want to play him.
I just think that this guy is, when you talk about a box safety,
yes, sir,
he's a box safety as well. Thieneman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You can put him at linebacker. He's more like Woodson to me than the other guy is.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. So if we were in a draft room, you would fight for Thieneman over Downs.
I'd take either one of them.
Sure.
But if we,
there's no wrong answer here.
There's no wrong answer here. No, they're good players. But just listen to, if I was a general manager and I'm listening to you describe the player, Voch, am I wrong? Do I get the sense that Thieneman,
when I said Thieneman,
he lit
smiled
up
real big.
Yeah, he lit up.
And he just talked about playing all his quarters and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was watching Thieneman, I was like, hey, man, they sure are running a whole bunch of it. So I'm just putting it all together. I think Coach would fight for Thieneman.
And that's cool because I think both of them are really good. I have them both right there.
Yeah.
I've yet to talk to anybody in the league, and I haven't talked to a lot of coaches and all that.
Sure.
But I'm sure there are ones that think the same thing of him.
I bet they would pick Thieneman over Downs just because of what Coach said, right? Thieneman is probably more athletic and he seems to be a little bigger there. So
a little more physical.
So they would value that a little bit.
That's you hitting people.
Yeah,
you hit.
Listen, you got to tackle. You got to
tackle. You got to tackle.
Stop the run to win in this league.
Yeah, got to tackle.
And so to me, it's just when you talk about size.
Yes, sir.
I think they're both the same size, right?
So,
I think both the same size.
This is fascinating, by the way. Me and Bryan, this is great.
They're both the same size.
Yeah,
but Thieneman is more physical.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you say size, you're saying maybe that Downs is not as physical as you'd like, to where he might get himself hurt. He needs to put on some bulk, some weight, some strength. Thieneman's ready to play.
He's ready to go right now?
I like him. I like him a lot. I like both of them, but I like him.
That's fascinating.
Okay, so wait, let me. Okay, so Downs is 6 foot 205.
Okay.
That's what I had. I got to transfer my combine numbers.
Okay.
Thieneman, 6 foot 205.
Right there.
Yeah, they're about the same.
So, but one of them plays with a little bit more of a thumper. So all this talk that people had about Thieneman at 12. And we were all kind of going, I don't know about that. I don't know. Dave Campo is saying, no, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I'll take this guy at 12. I'll take this guy at 12. Yeah. Cowboys haven't talked a whole lot about this guy.
They haven't.
Which
is that on purpose? Do you think that
I
they
don't
secretly
know. Now I don't know. I think Dave's over there influencing Jerry and them now.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna get that pick at 12. They're gonna be they're gonna hand in that card. It'll be Thieneman, and we'll be like, remember this conversation with Dave Campo. Remember this conversation.
Now remember that what I said at the beginning. Of
Yeah,
this whole
I take either one of them.
I saw three tapes on
hey.
the guy.
That's all you need
Hey,
sometimes.
you're doing. You've probably watched 3 more games than a lot of people talking about this.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
we just mentioned size. Here's a guy that's getting a lot of notoriety because of his measurables and how big he is and how he like projects moving forward. Is McNeil-Warren from Toledo? What do you think? He's different than these other two guys that we just mentioned, Coach. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, let me just say he's not as athletic as the other two, but he's long.
Yes, sir. 6'3".
He's long and he's a physical guy. I don't know that he to me he's like a box or a 2-deep safety guy, not necessarily as much of a quarter guy. He's more of a run. He's got pretty good explosive.
God, I feel good about myself right now
me
for him
too.
said.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking down, don't play him at free safety.
Yeah, that's me
He's not
too.
a free
That's me too.
safety.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that.
He's not stiff, right? But he's not as athletic as those other two guys.
Sure.
So you really don't want him in a lot of man-to-man situations.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he's not a guy that you put in center field and let him go. Now, if he's playing hash to the numbers, he's fine. So to me, he's a 2-deep guy, cover 2 guy,
Right.
half cover guy.
Yep.
He's not a quarters guy because you don't want him to get locked up on a receiver down the field. And here's the other thing. The game has changed a little bit there, too. You know, our nickelback rerouted those slots.
Yeah.
Rerouting was big,
Yeah.
both for the corners and cover 2 and the nickel.
Got to help. Yeah.
Reroute them,
Yeah.
right? Get them off their lane so they're not just running down on those safeties, right? Today, I don't see anybody rerouting anybody. So if you're playing a quarter guy, he's got to have some ability to cover a guy down the field on the deep routes.
Right.
Whereas I don't think that's Warren.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that can run. He's got good lateral ability.
Sure.
So to me, and he's a thumper.
Right.
So I'd play him in a down situation in a zone. He's probably a zone guy as opposed to a man guy. So to me, you know, I see him as a 2nd-round pick.
Sure.
I don't see him as I think there's some people that think he's a late first.
Yeah.
Well,
Minnesota's a team. They're trying to Harrison Smith. They're a lot. Everybody's got Minnesota tagged for a safety.
Right.
You look at every mock draft. It's Thieneman. It's McNeil-Warren. They're trying to put him in that spot.
I was talking to Zach, our producer, your producer, earlier. To me, I always used 18, the 18th pick.
Yeah.
As kind of the line.
Sure.
Normally, you don't find guys past the 18th pick with first-round grades.
Right.
When you really look at how people grade,
Sure.
you know, all the different categories, you know, I'm not sure that this year that it goes to 18.
No.
I think we got 13 names.
Got 12, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of in that
There
third.
you
Yeah,
go.
usually you're right. It's usually 18 to 22.
Yeah.
This is one of those years where it's 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right, because this is not a great top-end draft.
Right.
Well, so with that being said, if I'm looking at him, I really feel that and I say 18, let's say 20 or 22, from 22 to 32 is basically the same guy as 32 to 50.
Yeah.
They just have different pluses and minuses and where they fit with your team.
Sure.
So when they say late first round on a guy like Warren,
Yeah.
maybe he is. Maybe for some team he's number 31 or 28 or whatever.
Right.
For me, when I look at a guy after looking at him on tape, I'm saying he's a 40, 50
Where
2nd-round pick guy.
Downs on your board is more 10 to 12, and then Thieneman's more 10
to 10 to 13
14,
or 14.
I got you. I got you. All right.
But that's me now.
That's
so.
I think you're seeing it. I think the way you present
Coach
it.
agrees with me.
Yeah, he does agree with you.
Me and Coach
You
right here.
did.
Me and Coach right here.
You should be worried, Coach, that Voch does agree with you on this.
Oh no, that's Coach. Coach would just be right. I'm looking, Coach. I've gotten into many fights about McNeil-Warren.
Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah.
But he's 37th on my board.
Yeah.
Some people have him in the 20. Hey, Voch, should we take him at 20?
There you go.
I think
Right
20 is
on
a bit
it.
high for me. When I'm watching safeties, I just value guys with a little more range and athleticism.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Also, the next guys you start talking about,
Sure.
speed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he at least has speed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Sure.
He doesn't have the athletic
Sure.
quickness, hip turn, all those kind of things, but he has speed. So that's what puts him in there where people are talking about him in that late first,
Yeah.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
What's Dave? What's the thought, real quick, about the leggy defensive back, the long leg, tall guy? Is that something that you liked, or is that something like, I don't know about those? They don't turn quick, they don't flip quick. Does the long leg guy bother you?
Well, it bothers me a little bit. I mean, to me, athletic, it's harder to find the big athletes
Right.
in any position.
Right.
You can go to the offensive line, the offensive tackles.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of them around that can handle those speed rushes off the edge, right? And so I think it bothers me a little bit. I would rather see long-armed guys that are, that can make plays, based on that. But I don't know. Everybody's different. I mean,
Sure. I always find it hard when I'm watching those long leg guys,
they just don't have
they
the
don't
same
turn. They don't turn as well, and I'm going,
Right.
oh, please don't let that be my guy.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a factor. And that's why McNeil, I think, falls below McNeil-Warren.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Right. You got it right.
Yep.
I got McNeil-Warren, right?
McNeil-Warren.
He doesn't have that twitchiness,
The turn,
and all that the other two guys have, and that's what kind of drops him for me.
Now, Coach, people loudly disagree with me when I say this.
Okay.
Because this guy is a little twitchy and he can turn and he can play with some range and go play nickel versus trips and all this kind of stuff. Most people have him later in the draft. I got him ahead of McNeil-Warren. Our safety Wheatley from Penn State. Right. I think he's better than McNeil-Warren. I got a second round grade on him. He's my 20th guy. You can tell me I'm wrong by him being my 20th guy, but what you think about Wheatley from Penn State?
Well, the only thing that bothers me about Wheatley is his speed.
Mm.
He's a 4.6 guy. He's not a 4.4, 4.3. I like the guys with the 4.4s and the 4.3.
That film looked a lot faster than
Let
what I
me
thought.
say this:
Sure.
he plays faster than his game.
Okay, cool. That must be what it is. Okay.
I mean, faster than his time speed.
Sure.
He has the ability to play nickel. He's a nickel kind of a guy.
Sure.
Because of that athletic ability. I like that part of him for sure. And he's got big enough size. He will tackle. He's got athletic ability. I just get nervous when I see 4.6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me nervous, but that doesn't mean that the guy's not a good player.
Sure.
I would say he's a second round pick for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's got he's an instinctive guy. He plays faster than his time.
Yeah, 6'3", 201 is what you're working on. I mean, he is a good-looking player.
Yeah, he got the long arms.
But you're talking about, Dave, though, the guy that is he more like Downs in that you would want to play him as the nickel and as the nickel, and then look at you going to your notes.
All right, I'm gonna go.
Oh man, zoom in on this.
Okay,
Oh boy.
here you go. Wheatley. Okay, excellent downhill player.
Yeah.
Excellent ball skills. He's versatile. Box, free safety, or corner.
Yeah.
No, excuse me, or nickel.
Yeah.
Or quarters. Box, quarters, or free safety.
All right.
Because he's got range. And I've got written right there.
Yeah.
Looks faster than his time speed.
For sure.
Okay? He's an average tackler. He's not really an explosive guy. If you look at the measurables, as far as his jumps and those kind of things, that's what brings him down, in my opinion. He's not really explosive. He's not a super tackler, but he can cover man to man. You got him right there.
Yeah.
And I'd take Warren over him though.
Okay.
See, Coach, what happens is pro days. Some of these coaches trying to get them to their team, they may just clock them a little late. Like, oh yeah, 4-6 guy, y'all can't take them.
Dave's standing there at the 43, getting that little slow.
Yeah, get them at the 45 a little bit.
Listen, I had to have Woodson run twice when he ran the 4.35.
4.35, yeah. At that big.
Stuck him fast, run again, and he ran another one.
At that
so
big,
that was
yeah.
the end of that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing about that, though. I had a guy one time, a quarterback, that when the scout walked back to get lined up to time the 40, he moved up a yard and a half.
You got to do what you got to do to get your guy.
He got the opposite of that going, a little quicker than he normally is.
Coach, here's a fascinating character, right? And I think, once again, measurables and athleticism come into play. But, I'm just film guy, and I just like that he makes plays on film. What about Halsey?
I like him.
Halsey from LSU, you like him. Talk to
I
us.
like him. He's tough.
Yeah.
Tough physical guy.
Yeah.
Loves to play the game, competitive. I think he's got a chance. I think he's in that late second round.
Sure.
I'm all over him.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting there at 50 and I need a safety, I'm taking him.
Sure.
I like the guy. I think he's got characteristics that you're looking at. I'm going to look at it again.
Yeah,
here real
Nothing
quick.
wrong with that. I love it.
I'm impressed the fact you don't have to go to glasses to get this done.
Yeah, listen, instincts, reacts quickly. He's not a man-to-man guy though.
Yeah.
Correct. He's got great ball skills as well. He's a little stiff from what I saw.
Yeah, sure.
And
Got
so again, he's a zone guy. And if you're going to use him in zone, you're going to use him as a down safety or a free that can go sideline to sideline. He's a 4-5 guy. He's not in the big blazing speed guy. That's what separates these guys into the second round and early third.
Coach, who he reminded me of, and I was with this player in Green Bay. He reminds me of Leroy Butler.
Yeah.
Physically how Leroy was a converted corner, Florida State, and then came to the league, and then we made him a safety.
Sure.
Yep.
But he's a 6 foot, 222 pound guy, kind of
bigger dude,
kind of pudgy looking. And I say that as a guy who's also a big guy, but he reminded me physically of Leroy Butler. But he's always around the ball.
Exactly.
The ball kind of gravitates if you go back and watch him play at Houston.
Yep.
He was always in position. There were overthrows. There were, but you watch him at LSU, and he is one of those guys, the reactions, being around the ball, all those things. He is probably not the most athletic guy, but man, the ball seems to find him. Sure. And when he has to make tackles in space, he's able to do that.
Yeah,
I think you got him right.
What I saw of him, and I like him now. Don't get me wrong, I like him. The one thing that I saw was that he makes plays on instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Those two things stood out to me.
That's what I like.
And I can see why an old D-line.
Sure. Come up and thump and help us. Come up and help us in this run game, please.
Up and then make something happen and hit somebody.
For sure. I love that.
I'm a little bit more, I'm a little smaller than you. I'm that guy that is kind of, twitchy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what I saw in him. And again, in certain schemes, and I think he's fast enough at 4.5 to be a cover 2 safety or, a guy that goes, laterally. I just think his instinct is really good. He's around the ball all the time.
Yeah, he is around the ball.
That's what you said.
Coach, we got two guys that are fascinating.
I may not see much more than that.
That's all right. That's all right. I trust whatever you bring to the table here, Coach. They both play something else. They're advertised as something.
Right.
But me and Bryan kind of view them as safety type guys. Let's just start with this guy, Scott from Miami. Goes out there, he plays a bunch of nickel, and me and Bryan talk about it. He's like, man, Bryan, is this guy a safety? We don't really see a man covering too much. He makes a bunch of plays in the run game, Coach. What you think about Scott from Miami? Keontae Scott?
Yeah, I haven't seen much of him, although I've watched Miami play.
Sure.
To me, I don't know if you saw Ransaw, the kid last year.
Yeah.
Jacksonville took.
Yeah.
Was played mostly nickel.
Right.
but had the ability to move back and play some quarters, and that's what they're doing. They're going. He got hurt, didn't play at all this year. I see them similar. Yeah. I see them as a guy that can be a little bit versatile. I don't know that he's a pure man guy, but he gets around the football. He's another guy.
There's the thing with there's these projections that we're talking about, and with Scott Lewis, who was the linebacker at Pitt. Another projection. That you kind of think of. Stooks from Arizona.
Yeah, no, I looked at Stooks.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to think what you have with Stooks. Yeah. I think the thing with Scott too. I like Scott's toughness.
Yeah.
I like the ability. I think there's some people that say he can't cover.
Sure.
I don't see it. I see a guy I think that can cover.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's in that role of what coaches talked about.
Probably not rangy guy.
The rangy guys that we talked about early with the Thieneman and Downs and those kinds of guys.
Right.
But I do love the blitz ability. I do love the toughness. I do love the way he's around the ball and around the line of scrimmage.
Sure. And that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ransaw, he's a guy that played nickel, and he was really good against the run.
Yeah.
Now they're moving him back. Well, that's the Woodson
comparison.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's a poor man's Woodson, believe me. But I'm just saying that I like that part of him.
Yeah.
And I think he's that type of a guy.
Trading Stooks, you just brought him up from Arizona.
Yeah.
Now you just brought him up, so I love him.
No,
What you
I
think
didn't
about
say
him?
I love him.
Okay, you like him. You like him a lot. I've seen him.
I looked at him.
I looked
saw
at
him because
Stooks.
I thought he was a decent looking guy.
Yeah.
Tell us about Stooks.
Well, the thing I liked about him the most was he ran a 4.33.
Yeah.
I know your type, coach.
The guy can run.
I know your type.
I'm okay with him.
Okay.
And he's a 10-10
Broad
jumper.
Yep.
And a 38 vertical. So
right.
I mean, the guy's got athletic skills.
Yeah.
He had a knee injury. In 24, so he didn't play.
Yep.
But here's what I see on him. He plays a little tall. He's a quick processor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some tightness, but he's got really good instincts.
Yep.
And he's excellent ball tracking and hands.
Yep.
So he's a guy that you look at and you say, well, this is could be a developmental guy. Mm-hmm. And when I say developmental, I'm talking about third round.
Sure.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Third, early fourth, whatever. Right. I don't know where he fits. Mm-hmm. But when I see a guy that runs fast and has good instincts, I want to coach him.
Yeah.
That's how I look at Stooks. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know. He's not got some stiffness to him, and that so that may limit him in some ways. But from what I saw of him, I like him.
Yeah, I think the thing I really liked about Stooks is I liked how physical he was when you play press. Yeah. When you talk about the redirection and the things like that, the first thing I thought about is, boy, this is a big, long guy. Mm-hmm. And you watch him play in the slot, and then you watch him have to play some of those linebacker things.
Right. Yeah.
And he's down there and he's tackling, and it's a short yardage situation, and he's knifing in there and he's making plays. This is where I think initially people were like, oh, trading Stooks. Oh, here he is, Arizona. Everybody was watching the other safety,
Jensen Smith.
Yeah, Jensen Smith. And they're thinking, oh, well, how about this guy?
Yeah.
Stooks looks like to me a better player than what Jensen Smith is.
Sure.
Because Jensen Smith won't tackle you.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you have to do as a scout, and again, as a coach as well, and I always use Woodson as an example. He was a Willie linebacker.
Yeah.
Well, when you get past those top guys that you're talking about, now you're looking at what you said earlier, projections.
Projections.
What traits does he have that give him a chance to develop?
Sure.
And to me, I'll be honest, the problem I had as a head coach in Dallas, not picking my own guys.
Sure.
We didn't have coaches that were really good developers in a lot of spots.
Yeah.
And for me, that comes into the decision on whether or not you take a guy.
Right.
If you feel that this guy is coachable and he has a chance, he's got good instincts and he's got decent speed, let's take a look at that. Right. Because if he's tough, and from everything I hear, he's got great character. Right. He's got all of those things. You're going to take a good look at that guy. Yeah. Now he's not going to be up in there. You're going to get killed in the media if you take a guy high like that.
Right.
But there's something along the lines there where you got to say, hey, this is a football player.
Yeah.
Let me get my hands on.
You talk about the development, and Voch always likes to say, what's coaching for?
Sure.
What's coaching for? But you look at the development and stuff like that. Maybe it was the complete opposite of what you guys had in your Super Bowl teams, where you did have guys like yourself, a Butch Davis, a Dave Wanstead, a Tony Wise, a Hubbard Alexander.
That was a darn good coach.
A Joe Brodsky. You had these guys that, and maybe that's because of all your college background too, that you guys knew that you had to develop these players because they were scholarship players. And these are the guys we have. We ain't going out and getting. Nowadays, you could go out and get somebody NIL.
Right.
Back in the day, I can only imagine what you guys did at Miami with NIL back in the day. That
it existed back then.
it totally different level, totally different. But you're right about the development aspect of these. There's going to be guys that are going to be taken in the 4th, 5th round. That we're going to talk about their ability as players, and some of these safeties we're going to talk about them, but will they go to a place where the coaches will find ways to use them? Like we've seen what they did with Nick Emmanuel-Warren with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
We've seen what coaching does for players who coaches have a vision for.
My example there is Larry Brown.
Yeah.
He had
12th round pick.
Yeah, he had everything that you're looking at, but when you watch the tape of him, he was raw.
Right.
If you just looked at the tape and I didn't go over and work him out and see his competitiveness and all those kind of things, we wouldn't have taken him.
Right.
But at the same time, if you see that he has the skills, if you know what you want your team to look like.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing we had at Miami with Jimmy. Jimmy would say to the coaches, how big is he? How fast is he?
Right.
Can he play?
Pretty simple,
yes.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. We sign him. And so my background is based on that. I look at a guy and I say, okay, he's got these particular traits. Let me get my hands on him.
Sure.
That's how I look at everything. And so there's guys that in this draft that will be in the 5th round, 6th round that will make it. Believe me, they're not all 1st and 2nd rounders.
Sure. It's up to coaching though too.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's up to coaches that have a plan for how they want to use these particular players.
Absolutely.
Coach, I got one last guy.
I don't have any more.
Oh, you out? Oh no, never mind. Brian, I got one last guy for you.
You bring him up.
No, there's this one player that was really fascinating, Kyle Lewis. He's 5'11" and 7/8. Pittsburgh, the linebacker safety guy. He's 220, but he's 5'11", and he's a good athlete, and he's small for a linebacker. And you wouldn't, and he's 4'5'3", so you wouldn't be playing a whole bunch of free for you. Yeah. So like, I guess I'm just curious about where would you play a guy like that? That's he's super cover guy as linebacker guy, to where he goes and plays safety sometimes. I just thought that he was an interesting guy. I would have loved to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe if the Cowboys draft him, we'll come back and visit.
Yeah, have you seen the kid? Have you seen?
No, I have not seen him.
Yeah. The thing about with Lewis, and this is just the description of it though with him, and this is Voch and I have fun with this one.
Sure,
it's because he makes every play.
All the plays.
He makes all the plays.
See,
this guy is a tremendous blitzer.
Right.
He's explosive. He tackles well. Yeah. He causes turnovers.
3 picks.
Yeah. He's one of these guys that when you watch him play, usually you'll hear scouts say, well, if you squint, no, you don't have to squint about this guy.
Yeah.
Because the film shows you And Darren Woodson was listen, here I'm comparing him to Darren Woodson. I'm not doing that. But Darren Woodson was a linebacker at Arizona State.
Correct.
And you watched him play as a linebacker. And then you're like, well, let's project him to.
Right.
Let's project him to these things. I could see Lewis. I think that people I don't think people are gonna sleep on this guy. Mm. But we're gonna like in week 3, week 4 of an NFL season.
Yeah.
And we're going to go, someone's going to reach out and say, hey, remember that show you guys did talking about that Pitt linebacker that you wanted to play at safety?
Yeah.
You guys were right about him.
Well, film doesn't lie.
No.
Brian,
No.
you know that. I mean, when it's all said and done,
Yeah.
watch the tape.
Yeah.
If the guy's a football player, he's a football player, and he has a chance to make it. Now, if the guy's a 5 flat guy and he's doing all this, you say, that next level makes a big difference. But if you see something in a guy like that, there's something to it.
I'll finish this off, Voch. I know what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
I will say there was a time I thought that I almost got fired because of you.
Because of me?
Yeah. When we signed Felipe Sparks.
Yeah.
We signed. You were really excited about Felipe Sparks.
Right.
You were thinking, well, he'll help us this way, help us. And I went into I was in the office with you, Lacewell, and we were sitting there talking, and Felipe Sparks, I didn't think Felipe Sparks could play.
Right.
And you were excited about it and all that. And I'm like, Dave, I don't agree with you. I don't really.
Right.
And you left, and Larry Lacewell looked at me and says, don't you say another effing word about that player.
Yeah,
and I said, but Lace, he says, don't say another word about that player. I said, but Lace, he goes, you say another word, you're fired. And I went, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I turned around and walked out of the room. I do feel like I was right about Felipe Sparks.
That was 50 years ago, man.
You were absolutely right.
You were right about a lot of players. I felt like I was right about Felipe Sparks.
In deference to me, though, we didn't have a whole heck
No,
of
we
a lot
didn't. Because of me. Because I wasn't helping you enough. I wasn't helping you enough. That's why. But no.
Don't let Brian talk to you about something that happened 40 years ago, Coach.
I'm just telling you, man.
Listen.
I'm telling you, like, I almost got fired. Dave was like, gosh, I maybe got a guy. And I'm like, I was shaking my head. I was like, no, we don't have a guy. This is not a guy.
Let me say again, guys, I've only seen these guys in 3 tapes.
3 guys.
So if the guy goes in the first round, I said he was a 5th rounder. Hey.
Hey, it's all good. But that was Lace looked at me and goes, you say one more word, you're fired. And he goes, if a coach likes a player, you say yes, sir, and move on.
And to be honest with you, that's one of the problems.
Yeah.
To be honest. I've said that from the beginning.
I think we all learned. I'm doing media now because I said too many times to Parcells.
Yeah.
I did this. It's Bill. Bill just said enough of you.
Yeah.
Dave was nice to me. Parcells said enough of you. I've had enough of you.
Fascinating. I would have loved to have been around and gotten fired for saying something right.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Coach, we appreciate you so much for coming through,
it's
dropping knowledge
here
on
with
us.
you guys.
In about 2 or 3 weeks or so, all these 200 or so players that me and Brian watch, it won't matter. It'll be about 12 guys we're really going to focus on.
Yeah,
right.
And maybe we'll have you back and talk about those 12 guys. There.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it, and appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach. Hey, we appreciate y'all for tapping in. Y'all be sure to go to the website, crownglobemedia.com. Go get the merch. Check out the big boards there. Make your own big board. NFL is a strange lady. You got about another 72 hours before that's gone, so go over there and check that out. And we appreciate y'all for tapping in. That's Crown Globe Media on Twitter. Coach, you on Twitter?
No, I don't do much.
Coach ain't on Twitter. Coach ain't on Twitter. But you can find me at Voch Lombardi. You can find Coach at Crown Globe Media sometimes, chopping up football with us. And we'll catch y'all tomorrow. We're going to have some more fun, probably do a little crossover show breaking down top 100s. All right? We'll catch you. Crown.